Chapter 11. Safety. Silver Spot was panicking. Saberclaw had just been stabbed and was currently on the verge of death. Again. She had barely been able to save Saberclaw from the last near-death incident months ago, but she still felt guilty for not saving her sooner and was now reliving the fear of not being fast enough. Saberclaw had just lost consciousness and was losing way too much G to survive. They needed to get her back to the base, but Silver Spot and Razorwing had lost too much G from their own wounds as well to carry her back. Iron Stripe would be strong enough, but he had been injured in the original battle and could not move his left arm much. She ripped open the gun she had stolen from one of Rebaya's soldiers and tore out a glowing, small tank that had been used to fuel the weapon. The liquid inside the tube would not save Saberclaw, but it would be enough to keep her alive until they got her back to the base. The sun had begun to rise, and the humans were probably waking up right about now. Silver Spot opened the tank and poured the liquid into the large wound on Saberclaw's chest gently. She didn't dare take the dagger out of the green robot, because she knew that more G would be lost. Once the wound stopped leaking, Silver Spot looked up at Iron Stripe. "How are we going to get her back to the base? Saberclaw needs medical attention immediately." She was very stressed. Iron Stripe shook his head and exhaled. "I have no idea. None of US can get her back." Razorwing turned from holding up Saberclaw's head. "I could do it. I can lift her." He was trying to stay calm, but his voice was cracking. Silver Spot nodded with disapproval. "Not on that leg you can't. You wouldn't even be able to stand up carrying her." She looked back at Saberclaw with worry in her eyes. A voice spoke from the woods. "I will help you." The voice was obviously a robot, but wasn't familiar to the Sentiron. They all turned and saw Lockjaw walk out of the woods cautiously. The sunlight shone on his blue armor as he walked with his fists clenched and his head pointed down. His eyes glistened with determination, hesitation, and nervousness all at the same time. Silver Spot stood up sharply and stood threateningly facing him. "Stay away. I will not hesitate to shoot you." She reached down and grabbed her crossbow, loading and aiming it at Lockjaw. She was very emotional right now, and she wanted more than anything to protect her team, or what was left of it. The blue robot reached to his back and revealed a long pole. On each end of the pole, a short, thick, curved, and pointed saber curved into a deadly weapon. The pole was blue and was perfect for killing, but Lockjaw threw it on the ground away from him. "I know it isn't much and you can't trust me, but look at yourselves. I am your best option for saving Saberclaw." Lockjaw looked up and made eye contact with Silver Spot despite the fact she could kill him in seconds. "I understand that you don't believe me at all, but I would hate for her to die as much as you would." He spoke as if he knew that he was right, and he was indeed right. Razorwing gently let Saberclaw's head rest on the ground and gritted his teeth as he stood up and said, "You got that right. I can't believe you thought that you could just come back here and try to trick us into letting you hurt her even more." He was livid, and he began walking toward Lockjaw. As he passed Silver Spot, she put her hand out and stopped him. "Razorwing, he may be right. She will surely perish if we do not let him help. And he seems genuine." Razorwing huffed at her, but didn't stop and kept walking. Silver Spot didn't drop her crossbow, but was beginning to connect the dots. He said that he wouldn't want her to die either, and she was trying to figure out why, when a flashback reminded her of Saberclaw acting weird while describing him and her face when she was apparently thinking of him. Lockjaw frowned. "You don't have to let me, but I don't think you would forgive yourself when she dies." Razorwing walked towards Lockjaw and sized him up as he stood in front of him. The blue robot was bigger than him, but Razorwing was determined to scare him off. "I will make sure she lives. You sat there and watched Rebay stab her and did nothing. You may look like a Sentiron, but you are a Nextari soldier when it comes to intentions." The two glared at each other, and Razorwing was debating attacking Lockjaw since he wouldn't leave. Lockjaw spoke from a motion-driven attitude. "I don't even know who you are, but it is taking a lot of self-control and courage for me to even be here." Lockjaw sounded guilty, but didn't let loose his determined attitude. "I would be executed for treason just for being here, Sentiron. Let me help, please, so that all of this wouldn't be a waste and a ring around my neck. If I'm gone much longer, Rebay will get suspicious." His words echoed in everyone's head as they realized just how much he was risking for what seemed to be no reason. Silver Spot lowered her weapon, surprising Iron Stripe, who was behind her trying to keep Saberclaw alive. "Razor Wing, let him help," she said with a little hesitation. "He is our only hope, and no regular Nextari soldier would betray Rebay." "He isn't lying." Razor Wing turned around and saw Silver Spot's serious expression. He scowled. "I am Razor Wing, and I will end you if you even try to hurt Saberclaw." He let Lockjaw step past him, but he still followed Lockjaw closely as they walked over to Saberclaw. As he walked, Razorwing pulled Saberclaw's second dagger out of the soldier's body. Saberclaw's dagger was much more lethal at close range than Razorwing's throwing stars. Just in case, Razorwing thought as he held the bloody dagger in his hands and stood behind Lockjaw. Lockjaw looked at Iron Stripe and said, "To be fair, I don't trust you guys either, so I'm going to get my weapon, but I'm letting you know first so you don't think that I'm trying anything." He looked towards that resting weapon on the ground. Lockjaw stretched his hand out in the direction of the pointed pole on the ground, and it abruptly flew into his hands. The rod was also magnetic, so it went straight to Lockjaw. Without difficulty, and Lockjaw reattached it to his back. The others flinched, but didn't think he was trying to attack. Lockjaw crouched down and put his hands under Saberclaw, one under her knee joints and one under her shoulder blade armor. He exhaled sharply and lifted her into his arms. He felt comfort and happiness as he held her, but still had a depressing feeling knowing she could die in his arms at any minute. Iron Stripe rushed forward, stumbling while trying to walk correctly due to his wounds. He put a hand on Lockjaw's shoulder and said, "Thank you, Lockjaw. Follow us. We will lead you as far as we need her to go before we can carry her the rest of the way." "All right." Lockjaw nodded as Iron Stripe charged ahead through the forest, and Silver Spot followed close behind. Razorwing could not run, so he simply limped as best he could behind them. His knee sensed searing pain with every step. Razorwing was in pain, but refused to let Lockjaw out of his sight when a Nextari soldier could easily hurt Saberclaw. He felt very protective over his teammate and would be devastated if Lockjaw killed her. If she died, he would never forgive himself even after he destroyed Lockjaw and Rebay and everyone in the Nextari for revenge. Saberclaw's head was limp and her arms fell to her sides as she was quickly moved through the woods. She gained consciousness for a second due to the little bit of energy that she got from the blaster's fuel. She felt strong, masculine, metal hands under her and assumed it was Iron Stripe until she gained enough strength to open her optics a little. Saberclaw didn't have much strength, saw Lockjaw's blue armor and his quick movements, feeling comfort and relief that made no sense since her only memories of him were deadly. She knew now that it was Lockjaw, but was too weak to form any words, so she just smiled at him and then quickly passed out again without Lockjaw noticing her awareness. The group crashed through the woods, branches getting knocked off trees and fallen twigs snapping under the pressure of the robot's feet. The ground shook as they rushed. As he followed, Iron Stripe and Silver Spot and Razorwing trailed behind. Lockjaw looked down at Saberclaw's peaceful face and the dagger sticking out her chest, and the blue-green liquid darkened and dried around the wound. He had to look up because he couldn't bear to see her in such a limp state. Then, Iron Stripe slowed to a stop and grabbed Saberclaw out of Lockjaw's arms and said, "Thank you, young one. We can take it from here. Now, go and hurry back before Rebay realizes you're gone, and don't speak a word of this event for your own sake." Lockjaw nodded and jumped, using his wings to fly up out of the tree canopy and out of sight quickly. Razorwing relaxed his body with relief. The danger of Lockjaw was gone, and the group began to walk, or better yet, limp back through the last of the woods, through the field, and into the base where Lila, John, and Sam were waiting. Lila gasped and tears began to swell in her eyes when she saw Saberclaw, soon pouring out onto her cheeks in sobs. The robots didn't bother addressing the shocked humans and rushed straight into Silver Spot's medical lab. Iron Stripe laid Saberclaw on the medical bed gently, and Silver Spot grabbed a large, IV-like stand and tube and injected it into Saberclaw's upper arm. Soon, G went through the tiny tube and began circulating throughout Saberclaw's body. Silver Spot was running around the lab, attaching more tubes to Saberclaw, grabbing things to help with the wound, and filling in the humans on the events. However, she left out the part about Lockjaw helping them, and the other two robots didn't say anything about it either. Lila, who somehow managed to get on the raised medical bed by herself, was sitting on Saberclaw's limp palm. I hate Rebay. I hate her. I hate her. I hate her. She put her head in her hands and cried. Silver Spot put down a large roll of metal sheets and put one hand on Saberclaw's chest to put pressure on the wound. It took some effort, but Silver Spot pulled out the dagger. Almost all of the damage in Saberclaw's chest had stopped leaking. Silver Spot put the dagger to the side on a tray and immediately began working on repairs for Saberclaw. Saber is stable now, but will be unconscious at least until I can fix this wound. The blow missed her power core, and that is why she is still alive. She is very lucky that the dagger didn't go even an inch to the side, or it would have killed her. Silver Spot was trying to be comforting in her own medical way, but it didn't have much of an effect on the emotional teenager who kept holding tightly to Saberclaw's finger. Razorwing had his head down as he sat on the other medical table. He was furious about the day's events, but was trying to figure out why Lockjaw helped Saberclaw. Ironstripe was following Silver Spot's instructions carefully and was being as gentle as he could while bandaging Razorwing's deep cut on his knee. Nothing important was damaged in Razorwing's wound, but it was still leaking a lot of G. Ironstripe wrapped a sheet of metal around Razorwing's wound and then called to Silver Spot. All right, when you get a chance, Razorwing needs a brace for his knee. Right? Ironstripe was a soldier, not a medic, and that really showed. Silver Spot laughed a little and nodded as she walked over to Razorwing and grabbed a large metal contraption that perfectly fit over Razorwing's knee when she put it on. She clicked a button on the contraption and it tightened, making sure that Razorwing couldn't move his knee. Razorwing yelped out, "Is it normal for it to hurt?" Razorwing already was scratching and trying to move the brace around. However, Silver Spot slapped his hand warningly. "Yes, it will be sore for the next few days until your body remembers how to walk on it. But don't touch it until then, got it?" She walked back over to Saberclaw as Razorwing huffed. Sam, who was standing on one of the balconies in the room, was clearly annoyed and affected by his emotions. He looked at Silver Spot and said, "How long until you all are battle-ready?" But she didn't turn to face him. "Ironstripe should be fine. He just needs to get a brace for his wing like I told him to." She glared at Ironstripe, and he immediately picked up another brace and put on his wing as she continued. "Razorwing won't be battle-ready for a few more days, but there is no telling when Saberclaw will even wake up. However, I should be completely repaired in about a week. My arm will be sore, though, so I will be able to fight, but not as well, and probably won't be able to aim my crossbow either." Ironstripe walked over to her and put his arm around her. She was deep in doing repairs on Saberclaw, so she didn't acknowledge him. However, he said to her, "Speaking of which, Saberclaw is stable for now, so you need to repair yourself, Silver." He spoke softly, but she sighed and put down her tools and didn't look at him. "I suppose you are right. A medic can't complete 100% of work if she herself isn't at 100%. She went over to a large, bot-sized sink and let the running water wash all of Saberclaw's G leakage wash off of her metal hands. She took the leftover metal sheets from Razorwing's bandage and wrapped her own arm with it. As Silver Spot started fixing her own wound, she talked, "Okay, so this is what we know so far. Lockjaw seems to be some kind of leader in the army, but isn't high enough in the rankings to be considered important. So, he is pretty much off the concern list. Then, we have Rebay, of course. She has definitely gone mad and won't hesitate to torture her victims instead of killing them. So that's fun," she said sarcastically. Razorwing chipped in. "What about the soldiers? Was that her whole army? They're kind of easy to take out, except when there are 50 coming at you at once, of course." Ironstripe chuckled sarcastically and exhaled sharply as he answered, "Oh no, that was not even a taste of how many there are. That was like, I don't know, 1/100th of the entire army. And that doesn't even include the medics and all that aren't soldiers." Razorwing slumped over. He knew that defeating Rebay and her army was going to be a lot harder than he thought. However, he couldn't get Lockjaw off his mind. He had such deep hatred for him now. He had heard stories from Saberclaw, but whenever she described Lockjaw, she did so with such awe. This made him hate Lockjaw even more. The way he had looked at Saberclaw when she was dying in his arms made Razorwing sick. Lockjaw seemed to captivate her with such ease, but he was literally her sworn enemy. Razorwing was thinking about these things when John spoke up. "Well, what are we going to do now?" He had his hand on his forehead in frustration. Silverspot finished fixing her wound and got up to continue working on Saberclaw. She had finished the repairs. She simply needed to put the sheets of metal on Saberclaw's chest so that Saberclaw's wound would be covered and her body could restore G-flow to the area. The green robot would have a permanent scar, but at least she wasn't dead. Now that Silverspot was thinking of this, she concluded that once Saberclaw's body restored G-flow to the wound area, the young robot should regain consciousness. Ironstripe thought about John's question. It was a good question indeed. With Saberclaw and Razorwing out of the picture, it would just be him and Silverspit. They couldn't hope to win battles with just two Sentiron able to fight. I don't know. Silverspot and I can't fight alone, and we aren't even at our best either. She can't aim, and I can't fly. He looked at his wing with the small brace. I have an idea. Silverspot and I will go on frequent patrols, but all of us will have to lay low. Saberclaw will not be going to school at least until she is battle-ready due to the risk of being caught, and Razorwing will be staying inside the base until he is also battle-ready. Ironstripe stood up and clapped his metal hands together. All right, everyone needs to stay here. I will go on a patrol. He began walking out of the room, but Silverspot put her hand on his chest to stop him. He turned his head to look at her and saw her leaning into him. How about instead, they stay here but me and you have a chat? She spoke with a demanding tone, so he knew she wasn't asking. He sighed and nodded. The two walked out of the room, and once they were in private, Silverspot looked up at him with longing eyes. "What is it?" she asked with her head tilted. Ironstripe, knowing what she was doing, shook his head violently. "What is what? I don't know what you're talking about. I have a perfectly good reason to be out of here." Silverspot's eyes sharpened as he said this. She glared at him and poked his chest, demanding answers. "I never said that you didn't. Why do you want to leave now, of all times? As far as we know, Rebay is still out there searching for us and Saberclaw's dead body. Not to mention Saberclaw is on the operating table unconscious. I have known you for long enough to know that you are lying about going on patrol." She used air quotes, and he turned his head away from her stubbornly and sighed while trying to walk away from her. She grabbed his hand and pulled him back to her. Surprisingly, he turned around and snapped. "Just leave me be, Silverspot. If Saberclaw is of such concern, then pay attention to her and stop meddling in my business." He realized he had yelled and his eyes softened as he tried to salvage the situation. "Look, Silver, I need my space, all right?" He tried to walk away again, but she didn't let go of his hand. Silverspot looked at him with soft, sad eyes and a quiver in her voice. "Stripe, is this about Saberclaw? You know I still care about you. It's just, there is something you are hiding from me," she exclaimed desperately. "I feel like you are keeping secrets that I should know. We have been through everything together since the day we met. You know that." She pulled him closer to her, and he closed his eyes with guilt, not wanting to look at her as she tried to get his attention. He, without making eye contact, told her, "It's nothing. Really." However, Silverspot wasn't buying it. "Ironstripe, whatever it is, we can get through it together. Obviously, something has been bothering you." She was not backing down. This stung Ironstripe. He did have a secret, but it was paramount that he didn't tell Silverspot or anyone else, for that matter. He wanted to tell her so badly because, as she had said, they had done everything together for the past 13 years. However, the problem was if he told her, then she would become her own downfall, and it was nearly impossible for Ironstripe to deal with such pressure. He was thinking about this when they heard a loud scream from inside the medical lab. It wasn't high-pitched, but it was definitely feminine. It obviously wasn't Lila due to the metallic tone, so Ironstripe and Silverspot knew exactly who it was. They ran into the room and saw the chaotic scene before them. Razorwing was desperately holding Saberclaw down as she writhed under him. He was about to lose his grip on her when Iron Stripe helped him by grabbing her and also holding her down as she fought. Saberclaw was fighting Iron Stripe and Razorwing desperately, as if they were trying to hurt her. She was yelling no, Rebay stop, over and over again, and was in full panic mode. She obviously was reliving the last battle like it was a nightmare. Razorwing was trying to calm her down, but keep her from hurting herself by moving too much at the same time. That was why he was initially holding her down. Lila had been thrown off the medical bed when Saberclaw jerked awake and was currently on the floor being helped by her father and uncle. Saberclaw's eyes had sparked to life, and her body was violently jerking as she squirmed. Silver Spot was leaning over Saberclaw's head, trying to talk to her, but Saberclaw seemed to be in a different world of her own. Inside Saberclaw's mind, she was reliving her darkest moments and other moments her terrified thoughts had created over and over again. She kept feeling the pain of the Shadow Killer's venom eating at her vital mechanics, but instead of maybe 5 minutes of pain, she felt like it was slowly hurting her for an eternity. She also couldn't get the image of Rebay slashing Silver Spot's arm and Razorwing's leg out of her visual. She also couldn't stop seeing Rebay's smug face and the dagger sticking out of her. She also kept hearing Lila and her teammates telling her she couldn't protect them. All she felt was helplessness and stress and wanted desperately to get out of this loop. Then, she heard Silver Spot's gentle, soft voice from outside her visions calling her. She regained her vision and slowly saw Silver Spot gently holding her hand and saw Razorwing and Iron Stripe both relax as she stopped struggling. Razorwing, who was very relieved, grabbed Saberclaw's other hand and held it tightly, his scared eyes searching hers for any way he could help. He squeezed her hand and comforted her. She heard Silver Spot's words now. Saberclaw, it's all right. You're safe now. Then Silver Spot realized Saberclaw was calming down. You are okay now. Rebay is gone, and we are all okay. Look at Iron Stripe, Razorwing, and I. You saved us. Saberclaw's panicked eyes softened as she sat up and said, but my dagger was... She trailed off as she looked at her chest that was now tightly wrapped in sheets of metal. Silver Spot held Saberclaw's hand and responded, yes, you were hurt, but now you are okay. Also, thanks to you, the rest of us are alive. Saberclaw looked around and saw Razorwing holding her other hand and Iron Stripe at her feet. They were all alive, and their wounds were bandaged and not bleeding anymore. She was relieved and exhaled sharply. Lila, who also got back on the bed somehow, put her hand on Saberclaw's torso comfortingly. You're safe, and everyone is okay. You don't need to be scared anymore. You protected everyone. This comment from Lila vanquished Saberclaw's fear, and she felt safe again. She slowly gained courage and said, it was terrible and brutal. I had visions of everyone getting hurt and telling me that I had failed and my body was in so much pain. She trailed off. Silver Spot didn't hesitate and hugged Saberclaw tightly. Saberclaw hugged her back. You did anything but fail, Saberclaw. She held Saberclaw until the young robot's body stopped shaking.